Well, I'm here with Tim Cooke from the United Kingdom. How are you, Tim?
I'm very well, Michael. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you. Thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate it. I want to tell everybody that's watching, of course, if you are checking this video out on the Michael Angelo Caruso YouTube channel, I'd be very appreciative if you would respond somehow, like it, comment. Obviously, sharing is even better. If you know of somebody that wants to do a book, and maybe doesn't have the time or the talent. We'll talk about that in just a second with Mr. Cooke. You want to share this video with him or her so that you can help them, so that Tim can help them. Tim, it's good to see you. I have a confession. I've been watching this series on TV called Slow Horses,
Oh yes, of course.
and I have a new.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I'd read all the books before the TV adaptation
Okay.
was done, and I didn't think I was going to like it because you have a very set idea of people in your head, the characters from the books.
Yes. Yes.
But in fact, it was all filmed within about half a mile of where I used to live in
Oh, no
London.
kidding.
Yeah,
What
no, up
area?
in the
What area
central
of
town.
London is that?
That's around the Barbican. It's Old Street and the Barbican. So that's kind of just the start of East London moving out from the centre. And
Okay.
they make it look a lot more, I think, a lot more shabby than it actually is. But no. So that was nice. I understand they do walking tours there now. But
Oh, I'm
I've
sure they're
moved.
selling
I've
tickets.
yeah, I've moved out to the suburbs. So we've moved away from the grime and the smoke.
Well, it's a sharp series. It's very well written. I love the dialogue. Gary Oldman, of course, is the star. And the confession is I have a new saying. It's not a saying in the States, but you learn a little bit about British euphemisms and British turns of phrase. And the phrase is fucking hell. We never use those two words together here in the States,
Really?
but
Surely,
I'm gonna
surely.
start a trend, man. Anyway,
That reminds me. Sorry, Michael. That reminds me of a
yeah.
time when my brother was the BBC's correspondent in Los Angeles, and I flew out to see him, and I got there, and I was tired because it was a long flight, and I got a text from him that he and his friends were in the pub, and I I must have got a cab or a bus in from LAX, and found them in the pub, and walked in, sat down, absolutely shattered, wishing I could go to bed. And a guy that I'd never met before, an American guy, turned around to me and said, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Are you a wanker or a tosser?" And I said, "Is this real? What are we supposed to do? Have a fight now or something?"
Yeah,
Because I
right.
don't think you understand quite how rude that is in the UK. But
Oh,
anyway,
he
they'd
was
be,
just trying to make nice with his new friend. He didn't even know what they
yeah,
were.
they'd been talking about the difference between British slang and US slang, and he got it in his mind that he could use it. He
Yeah,
could parlay like an Angleterra.
we'll leave the googling to our people that are watching about
Yes, all
wanker
right,
and
all right,
tosser.
and yes, and I apologise if that's lowered the tone.
No, no worries. I love your content and your offering. I know you mostly through LinkedIn, but I also checked up on you a bit. You've got a great reputation as a ghostwriter. For those of you that don't know, a ghostwriter is somebody that puts a book together uh, for payment, and then the person that did the hiring gets the credit for the book. That's my way of explaining it. Do you have another way to do it, Tim?
I mean, you're absolutely right. That's true. I get hired by people who want to write a book but don't have the time to write a book or don't feel they have the confidence to write the book. So to that extent, I'm a pen for hire. We work together on the book, and then at the end, I disappear. They take all the credit. Um, Many of the authors I work with have chosen to share credit, either usually in the form of an acknowledgement in the book, or sometimes by giving me a testimonial to go on my website, which is really for professional use. It's not something that I bandy around. People look at my website if they might be trying to hire me. But the deal is that's why we're called ghosts. Once we're done, if you don't want to acknowledge us, you don't have to. And we see many, many books, many authors who are very successful, including authors that I've worked with, who are very successful, who never ever drop a hint that they had any help writing their book, and that's fine. That's fine. I mean, we do it because we are very skilled at writing. We're very skilled at seeing how to structure a book, how to get the author's message across best, and then how to interview the author to get the content that will meet their ambitions for their book.
Yeah, lovely. I've worked with a lot of celebrities, politicians. Some are both, not all of them, but some are both celebrities and politicians. And you're right, they don't want people to know. But some are okay with it. And I always like it when people give me that professional nod, even though it wasn't part of the deal. It was like they
Yeah,
were so grateful or so happy with the end product that they would be willing to endorse me publicly. That just means the world to me. You probably feel the same.
absolutely. And Michael, I know it's the same for you because I know you help people with their own books and so on. Um, the way it works best, I think, is if you work together as professionals, your collaborators,
Yeah.
they appreciate your skill, you appreciate their knowledge. I say to my authors, they have to tell me what to put in the book. I'm not an expert. The only thing I'm expert on is writing. I plan and write really good books, but they have to tell me what to put in. They push back on me, and I have enough common sense and general knowledge to push back on them and say, this is great, but it's not interesting literally at all. I'm virtually going to sleep listening to you say it. So
Yeah.
how you think I'm going to write this in an interesting way is beyond me. Does the reader need to know this? And then sometimes they say, no, that's a good point. And sometimes they say, listen, I'm paying you, put it in the damn book.
And sometimes
Uh,
they say, I'm gonna have to get another ghostwriter.
yeah, exactly. You're fired. You got Donald Trump did you're fired over there, didn't he? We had a businessman called Alan Sugar who did it here. The you're fired. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, okay. You
It's what's
know,
it called? The You're Fired show. Oh, The
the
Apprentice. It's
Apprentice.
called The Apprentice. Yeah,
Yeah, might
there
as
you
well
go.
be called the You're Fired show. Listen, you have a thing on your website I'm very intrigued about. And the website, everybody, is cookthebook.com. It's Cooke,
Yeah,
Book, cookthebook.com, where you promise a book, or at least the language is a book in 24 hours. I want to know more about that. I think I know what you're doing there, but I want to hear more about
yeah.
that.
It's
First,
oh, sorry.
First, can we learn about your background, how you got into this? Because it's very interesting how you, the toggling between the speaking and the writing.
Yeah, well, I think it is an interesting story. Parts of it I think are unique, other parts of it not so unique. A lot of people get into ghostwriting through journalism or through writing for newsletters or something, maybe for their church or whatever. I went to work in publishing from quite an early age. I went to work in a publishing company. My first publishing company was Time Life, which big American company that used to do illustrated books. I went to work there in my 20s, and I worked in publishing for quite a long time. Inevitably, as I edited books, people would start to ask me to fill in missing paragraphs, missing information, and occasionally the whole chapters. And eventually, I ended up writing books. Um, I wrote an awful lot of kids' books. I've written about 7 million words for kids,
Oh
mainly
my
for
goodness.
yeah,
I,
mainly for American schools between about school kids between the ages of about 10 and 14, about a huge number of subjects: Anne Frank, the Civil War, the history of science, prehistoric civilization, whatever you can think of. But books of 32, 48, 64 pages,
I
maybe
assume,
6 or 8 thousand words.
I assume all these millions of words were small words for children.
They were small words, but some of them had 6 letters or above.
Okay, very
but
good.
but mainly words like Stonehenge that I had to include anyway. No,
Yeah,
they were okay, but it was hard practice. There, a kid who's being told they have to read a book that doesn't want to read a book is a pretty tough audience. And if you can write for them, you can write for anyone. So I learned to become very quick and very clear and precise in how I expressed myself. Um, but I was still just working with words because I've always been under the impression that I was a very bookish person. I studied English at university. I went into publishing, and I always thought that I went into publishing because I wasn't comfortable with people. I was much more comfortable editing on a page or with some headphones on or on a screen or whatever. And it was only probably my late 40s, early 50s that I realized that it was that wasn't the case. And if I can tell you, it was this was an unusual story. I had a friend who had cancer for quite a long time, and near what was obviously the end of his life. A number of us, we all went on holiday together.
Yeah.
And as his health deteriorated much quicker than we were expecting, and he was lying in his bedroom. He called us all in and gave us different tasks we had to do, to be the executor of his will or to look after his garden and so on. And when I went in, he said, I want you to do my funeral." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I want you to read it out and lead the funeral." He said, "But it's easy because I've left a list of songs." He said, "You know all the songs. Play the songs, then say a few words." And his words, Michael, I should remember, he said, "Cooke, not even you can fuck this up." So I said, "Yeah, okay, all right." But I didn't want to do it. So he died a couple of days later. He was 52, I think, or something at the time. So it was very sad. But I'd said that I would do this, and it was the most terrifying idea I had. But I thought, at least I've got the support of the music.
Right.
So I got in touch with his sister, and a message came back, and it said, and I shouldn't have been surprised, I'd known him for 40 years. It said, "Okay, no music, no list, no support, that's it." And I thought, oh, shit. But I did it. I introduced everybody, I welcomed everybody, I introduced the speakers, I did reminiscence. I reminisced about him. Did the solemn bit where the coffin disappears. I think it's called the committal. There was no preacher. It was a humanist thing. So I was running the whole thing. And I have to tell you, when people came up to me at the wake afterwards to say how well I'd done, and they went to hug me, they jumped straight back because I was wearing a dark woolen suit. It was black maybe. And it was soaked in sweat because I was terrified. I was terrified from the start to the finish of the whole occasion. But that was the time that I realized that I could actually talk to people perfectly well. Nothing
Yeah.
bad happens to you. I was addressing quite a large audience. I was talking to strangers afterwards, and they were all being very nice to me. And I thought, then, I'm quite good at this. I'm quite good at the communication. Of course, you're sitting there, Michael, you may be thinking, as an expert on communication, you may be thinking, who the hell's he kidding that he's good at communication? And I thought, well, I'm good at books and I'm good at talking. Where do they come together? And I thought, right, well, I'd heard about ghostwriting, but I hadn't really done much looking into it. And so I looked into it and I thought, this is perfect. I get to talk to people, and really cool people, and then I write their books down.
How long ago did you become a ghostwriter?
I became a ghostwriter. I was writing passages and sometimes whole books for people 20 years ago, but I became a ghostwriter, what I would call a ghostwriter now, the sort of ghostwriting I do now, probably about 7 or 8 years ago. That's when I started writing books, mainly business books, for people who've achieved something in business and want to tell others how to do the same thing, people who want to drum up new clients, people who want to raise their profile within their industry. And that's when I started working in what would you call it, in an oral, a spoken driven process, as it were. So what I tend to do, I do everything on Zoom calls. I was recently in the States working with a client face to face, and I think that's an offering that I'm going to add to my services. It's quite intense and it's quite expensive because you've got to fly me across the Atlantic if you're in North America. But you get an awful lot of work done in 3 or 4 days that would otherwise maybe take months. But as a rule, We set up a series of calls, maybe 60, 90 minutes. I don't know how long you
Yeah,
find you can last on a call, but my brain scrambles after 90 minutes.
sure.
And we spend a few calls talking about their book and then what they want to achieve with it. Then we spend another couple of calls talking about the possible content. And then I try and work out a structure and I show it to them and see what they think and whatever. And then eventually we talk through the book. We get on a call and I say, right, this time we said this chapter was going to be about when you woke up in that strip club in Hamburg and you were wearing a pair of pink dungarees and you were immediately arrested for possessing 2 tons of heroin. And they say, sorry, Tim, I don't think I can remember the incident you're talking about. No, they and then I guide them through it. But it's not. What can I say? It's not a one-way process. And again, I don't know if you get this with some of your writing clients, Michael, but I find that it's it goes better if I push back. If
What
I
do you mean
do
by
occasion,
pushback?
I mean, I occasionally like to say, hold on, as I said earlier, joking aside, hold on, this isn't making much sense to me.
Hmm.
Or hold on, this contradicts something you said the other day. Or do you know what? And sometimes it's as simple as saying, do you know what? This is so utter common sense
Yeah,
that you don't need to put it in your book, you know?
I use the word pedestrian. And I
Yeah,
agree
I
with you.
think
It's
that's
like the
right.
number one problem, and I can see it coming a mile away from my clients. And I don't write the big books that you do. I help people get published for the first time, smaller booklets, if you
All
will.
right. What a great thing to
Uh,
do.
but the one thing I notice is that everybody thinks that their story is interesting. And we have to be the ones because we're the standard bearers in the publishing industry, such as we are. We have to be the one to deliver the hard news that, your story is not that unusual. I mean, your mom
Yeah,
was sick and you were her primary caregiver. Do you know how many people go through this? Almost everybody with a mom.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. But then what tends to happen, I don't know if it's happened to you, you might be talking about that and they'll mention something else and you'll say, well, hold on a second. You didn't say you were a Rhodes Scholar. So you were a Rhodes Scholar and you had to give that up and then come home to
That's
care for
right.
your family. Now that is different and that
That's
we
right.
can work with. That gives us a different angle. I think I did some work in back in the day for a group called Scribe. I don't know if you came across Scribe Media out of Austin, Texas. They were a ghostwriting agency, but their motto was that everyone has a book. Everyone has a book inside them,
I've heard that.
and yeah, and I've come across a number of people, as probably you have, that make me question that a little bit. Some or certainly people whose books I don't think I wouldn't want to help bringing into the world.
I say
But
that
but
everybody has a pamphlet within them.
yeah, everybody's got a couple of paragraphs, or just the stuff that'll go on their tombstone. The name and the dates will be enough for this
Right,
person.
right.
Uh, but I do think that most people have a story, but it takes a lot of skill, and this is again, I think, something that our profession is very good at. A lot of skill to find the story and to tell the right story.
Yeah, your website says, Tim, that it says, it is actually, there's not a verb in this sentence, so I'm not sure you're promising this. I think it's how you work. It says a book in 24 hours.
Yeah,
Explain that process. That's
what that
fascinating.
means is I think it actually should say 20 hours, but
Oh,
maybe
20.
yeah.
Okay,
But
even
and
better.
I'll tell you what that is. That doesn't mean that if we start at 10 o'clock tonight, you'll get it by 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. What
Right.
it means is that's how much time an author needs to spend with me, maximum, to give me enough information to plan and write a book um, from start to finish. That would be a 50 or 60,000 word book. So a pretty standard length business book, maybe a little bit longer. That would break down into, that's about 12 to 15 calls 60 to 90 minutes.
These
I
Zoom,
rec
these Zoom calls, and now, of
Yeah,
course, Zoom has an AI recording capability, so you're actually getting
yeah.
text.
I record everything, and that becomes the transcript.
Yes.
And I end up with if you in the olden days, as my son says, Michael, I would have printed it out and ended up with a huge pile of paper. I don't do that anymore. I keep it all on screen, but the transcript becomes the basic material of the book. And I have I work through it, I move it around, I rewrite it, I make it fit the structure that we originally came out with, give it some formality, give it some rhythm, give it some nuance or some whatever, some atmosphere. I've had a couple of authors in the past who say, "Well, you just wrote down what I said." Well, no, I didn't. I try
No.
to as much as I possibly can, but they don't sound to me like they do in their head. They repeat themselves, they go backwards and forwards, and so on and so forth. And so that's you could be cruel and say, well, look at the transcript and then look at what I made of the transcript.
Yeah, I totally
But you don't. You
understand.
just say it's done.
For those of you listening at home, what we're talking about here, what we're alluding to, are writing techniques such as rhythm, alliteration,
Hmm.
metaphor, uh, storytelling mechanisms, motifs. All of these are things that Tim is really good at uh, taking your raw story, your raw script. And a good analogy for this, I think, Tim, is if you listen to an average person tell a joke, most people aren't very good at telling a joke.
Yeah.
Professional comedians are excellent at it. They get paid for it, but the average person couldn't go on stage and do stand up. And it's that curation process that we're talking to, both in the joke telling, the difference between you telling a joke at your bar, at your kitchen bar stool, versus Ricky Gervais telling it
Yeah.
at the Grammys or the Emmys or the Golden Globes, whatever he hosted all those years. And the difference between a busy executive telling a story that he's told a million times to the new employees that lacks all this luster that comes from that process that you do as a ghostwriter. I think that should help people understand the level of it's not just tweaking, man. It's artistry when you do it right.
I think so. When I say we, I've got ghostwriter colleagues I'm in touch with online and so on. A lot of us have been doing it for a long time. We've written a lot of books. I've written 35 properly ghostwritten books now for,
Wow,
for, for
wow.
different CEOs, lawyers, surgeons, all sorts of people. We've done the reps, so we don't need to think too much about the sort of technical things you're talking about, Michael, the rhythm and this sort of stuff. We know how to do this shit,
Yep.
so the author brings their knowledge. And I've always said to them, if you don't tell me it, it's not going in the book. I'm a
Right. You
smart
can't
guy,
make
but
up
I
a
don't run my
story.
I, no, I don't run my own business. So how the hell? Well, I do, but it's only me, so it doesn't really count. How the hell can I put something in? But I also say to them, I can write any book you like in any way you like if you give me the information.
Yes.
That's my USP. That's what I bring to the table. I know it's the same as you would say that that's what we do when you're very good at this. A lot of people around I notice online who I don't think are very good at it, but it's an incredibly difficult profession to get started in and to get experience.
Yeah.
Um,
Because once you have experience, I imagine a lot of your work comes from referrals.
yeah, yeah, increasingly so.
Yeah.
I,
Because
I, I,
the CEO that writes a kick-ass book with your help belongs to all these CEO organizations, and he gives the book
yeah,
out to everybody, or he makes them buy it, and then they say, "Well, who helped you? Who helped you with this, or did you get help?" And that's when Tim
yeah.
Cook's name comes up.
Yeah. Or of
Yeah.
course, Michael, that's when they say, no, nobody helped me at all. I
Nobody
did
helped
it. I,
me.
I did it while I was while I was in Barbados for a couple of weeks. When would you write? Why? Who else would write? When else would you write your book? Um, no, so I think that's right. Um, I've lost my train of thought now.
Let
Where
me
was I?
ask, let me
Yeah,
ask,
go on.
who is your ideal customer? And you might not have this on your website, but in your head, who is going to work well with you and who it's not, who it's going to be a no deal kind of a thing. Who are you looking for as a client that you're really sure you're going to be successful with?
I like people. I like people with stories. I like people who want to tell their stories, but I think I like mainly Michael. I like people who want to tell their stories for a reason, because they've achieved something and they can pass knowledge on, or because they've achieved something and they feel like they ought to pay back,
Yeah,
or because they want to uh, raise their own reputation or drive business to their company or something. I like stories that have a purpose, and I'm more comfortable, I think, working with people who can see what a return on investment is going to be.
yeah,
It's very difficult if you write straight memoir and people come and say, I want this to be the next Harry Potter, and you say, yeah, yeah, well, you and me both. But if you come to me with a story about a school for wizards, it's kind of already been done.
right.
Um, so I prefer to work in the business area, always nonfiction. As I say, CEOs, business coaches, I've done a lot of work with. I work with lawyers. I work with surgeons. Um, I'm working a little bit with a founder in California uh, and an investor in California who have very interesting takes on how much storytelling has declined in the creation of pitch decks for people looking for money and so on. And so we're exploring different ways that we can bring stories into that. But yeah, I think yeah, I don't like people who I don't like people working for people who are negative. I won't work for people who I think are sexist or racist or bigoted. I mean, this does not put me on a pedestal, because I think virtually everybody we speak to in the world will say exactly the same thing. But I have a few red lines that I wouldn't cross. But beyond that, I'm happy to talk to everybody. But
Sure, sure. Um, this sounds like a leading question. I even know the answer. I do not, and it's fine if the answer is nothing, zero. Do you have any, do you offer any extra services that one might not think of in addition to ghostwriting? For example, are there hookups, because you've been doing this for a while, with
yeah.
say the publishing industry, because I know when you ghostwrite a book, you really don't need the publisher, you need a printer more than anything. So
Yeah,
publishing
it's
industry,
true.
literary agent, or how about ancillary type services, merch, things like this?
Yeah, it's not something that I offer. It's what would you call it? It's an ecosystem about which I know a little, and I can point people in the right direction.
Okay.
It's it, you know it's I'll have my people talk to your people.
Yeah.
This is my contact. She can tell you about this. Here's another contact. She can tell you about this. I can do fantastic designers, cover designers, all that sort of stuff. I've got links into all of those things, but the actual publishing process, I'm um, I'm a big one for staying in my lane, Michael. I think I'm a really, really good writer,
Yeah.
and I'm not a very good administrator. So
Okay.
it's much better if I stay where I am.
Fair enough. You mentioned cover a minute ago. Let's use that phrase cover to cover. I know it takes 20 hours of the client's time.
Yeah.
How long does it take you to write a book cover to cover?
Well, that can take. I tend to think of it in weeks. I would probably allow myself between 6 to 8 weeks to draft a book once all the interviews have been done. By that time, of course, I've thought about it a lot as we go along. I think about
Yeah.
it a lot at the start when I come up with the structure. I think about it a lot while I'm listening to the author talking to me and recording it. Um, I tend to. I have a quite a strict rule that I only ever write one book at a time, which seems silly. I work on a number of books at a time, so I might be interviewing somebody in the mornings. somebody from Europe or the UK, I can talk to them at 10 a.m. for
Right.
an hour and a half, and then spend the afternoon working on the book or whatever. But yeah, 6 or 8 weeks. Then I will send a first draft to the author, who will either say, "This is appalling. I thought you said you were a ghostwriter," or will say, "Hey, this isn't too bad. This is kind of what I was thinking of, and let's revise it like this." Or, shit, I forgot. I had one guy, this is absolutely true, Michael. We'd worked together for a couple of years, and we got the first draft done. Still not finished, by the way, another 2 years later, because he keeps going off and having an adventure that he wants to put on. It's a book that will never end, because we keep adding new chapters. Anyway, we got to the end of the first draft, and he said, "Now I want to put a dedication to," gave me a girl's name, and I said, "Who is that?" And he said, "Well, it's my daughter." And I said, "Man, we've worked on this book for 2 years, and you haven't mentioned your daughter once. Don't you think she should be in the book?"
Wow.
Now that was something of a revision.
Yes.
I think that's the most amazing, the most amazing omission I've ever had from a book.
Tell me this. Uh, I assume a revision is in the cost of what you charge. But if you're like me, you just don't revise endlessly. I mean, there's got to be a
No,
break off point. How do you
there
talk
is a
about that with people?
there is a break off point. I'm quite happy to do one, as it were, complete revision. And on occasion, very rarely, I think I've done it once or twice out of 35 or so. That really involves a complete rewrite. That involves throwing out the structure and saying, "Look, we made a mistake. We've gone down the wrong road.
Yeah.
We'll do that." And then there's a second round of changes in the contract, which can be pretty substantive. Let's add a story to this chapter. Let's move these chapters around, and so on. And then after that, then we're down to pretty much line editing. I need to change this guy's name, or that's not actually factually true. I've made a mistake, and I need to correct it, and so on. So no,
Right.
there's no endless process. You know that can spin out of control so quickly, because it gets difficult as you get closer to publication. The author suddenly starts thinking, "Oh my God, this is it. This is it. So far, I've just shown it to my friends, because I know my friends. People always show their book to their friends because they know their friends are going to be nice about it, right?
Yeah.
It's people like, as you said earlier on, it's people like you and me who have to say to them, 'No, this is rubbish. You cannot publish it. If you publish this, I don't want my name anywhere near this stuff.'"
I often think that at this stage, where I know the book is just about as good as it's going to be, the booklet in
Yeah.
my case, and then they want to redo it, or they've shown it to somebody that says, "Oh no, you got that all wrong. It should be this and this. The front should be in the
Yeah,
back."
yeah, yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like a Monty Python skit because they come back to me with all this intel, and I say, "Oh no, it's done. It's pretty
Yes,
much
exactly,
done."
exactly. And the classic one is when they show it to, say, five different people, and they all come back with five completely
Five sets
different
of
views.
changes.
And then the author says, "Can you take all these in?" And you just say,
No.
"No, it's your book. You tell me which one of these to do, and I will do it. But I
Yeah,
cannot do them all."
that's right. Can't make everybody happy. Tim, I'm sure that the pricing is done one-on-one, individually, maybe even some slight negotiation, although I know you have a standard. Can you give my listeners an idea of what they'd be in for budget-wise if
Yeah,
they work
I
with you?
can. I can in US dollars. It would be probably around 60,000 bucks
Okay.
is my entry point now for a reasonably straightforward 50 to 60,000 word business book. There is some talking to be done, but there's not a huge amount, to be honest. That's based on my expertise and my experience. And that, I think, this goes back to something I mentioned to you before, Michael. I'm more comfortable working with people who I can see will get some return on their investment.
For sure.
It's a hell of a lot of money to lose if you're going to gamble that money on having a best-selling book. then I would say to you straight away, don't do this.
What is your take, Tim, on the AI? A lot of writers are using, and ghostwriters are using AI as kind of a shortcut um, in the process. How do you feel about it?
Um, I'm vaguely interested in it, but I'm largely pretty sanguine about the whole thing. I mean, Michael, no, no, none of your viewers saw the problems I had starting the microphone on my computer earlier on.
I thought we
So
weren't
it
going to
won't
talk
cover.
about that.
I was going to say it won't come as any surprise to you there. They're the hidden secrets. None. They don't know that I'm not wearing trousers either. Only you know that.
Yeah,
Um,
well,
yeah. Um, no, I don't. It'll come as no surprise to you that I not knowingly really used AI ever. I use a transcription service, which I guess is AI, but I don't use it for shortcuts. It probably would make admin easier for me, but I only work on probably 8 to 10 books a year at the very maximum, more like 6 to 8. And so I don't need it to solve my admin problems. And I never use it. I would never use it for writing. The reason I do what I do ultimately is that I love writing. Why would I let a machine do the good bits when I want to do the good
I
bits?
agree with that. And
Um,
I'll add another hard line um,
yeah,
in the sand from my end is that how am I going to get AI to write a story about what happened to you, Mr. Client, when you were
yeah,
16 years old? That
absolutely.
story has to come from you through us talking about it. And there's that word again, curating it. I can't ask AI about what happened to you when you were 16. So
No,
there are no
no.
shortcuts. And I like writing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that if the sort of stuff that we do, you want people to read it. It has to have a human connection. It has to have empathy and so on. If I were writing a car manual, a car maintenance manual,
Safety, yeah.
for instance, I would use AI in the drop of a hat because number one, I don't know anything about cars, and number two, it doesn't matter. Subject, verb, object. Put this here, put this there, put this there, then turn
Order.
this, and it will all be fine. And that seems to me a machine can do that fine, but a machine can't do what we do. It can't, as you say, it can't find the stories. It can't tell them in different ways. So I'll give you an example. Um, I worked for a company down in southeastern Europe, what used to be called the Balkans. Um, former Yugoslavia, the countries of former Yugoslavia. And they were saying that they go to these international trade shows and no one knows where they're from. They give the name of their country, no one knows where they're from. And so we called the first chapter of their book, Michael, we called it Where the Fuck is Croatia Anyway? Okay. And I don't think AI would have done that. And there was a bit where I said we introduced them, and I wrote, so, and if you really want to know where it is, go get an atlas, open it to the page that shows Italy, track across the whatever sea it is, the Adriatic, to the little bit that bulges out. That's what we are. Again, I don't think AI will do these things. Maybe, and people say this to me, maybe one day it will. I'll be long out of the business by then. Fingers crossed. And the only clients who ever say to me, I could do this cheaper with AI, I have to say, Michael, I suspect are clients who don't actually read books.
Yeah, I can smell AI a mile away. I hear
Yeah,
it. I hear it in the rhythm, the flatness of it. I mean, by definition, anything that's AI generated has been written before.
yeah,
It's just been
exactly.
cobbled together in an artless
Yeah.
kind of a
And you
way.
read it and you just think this is
It's flat.
this is as you say, this is so flat.
Yeah.
I used to feel the same about Hemingway, and then I came across AI, and it was even worse.
Listen, I have two more things to ask you.
Sure.
Both are kind of like human interests. The first is, do you have any, and I know you do, Tim Cook, cookthebook.com, everybody. Cooke, the book. No E at the end of that one.
No.
book.com. Do you have any pet peeves about the English language, how people write, things that you get sick to death of correcting?
Um, Pet peeves. I have an absolute split personality about this, and I'm completely hypocritical about it. I am at heart an absolute grammar Nazi. I want perfect grammar all the time. I'd studied English at university, so I know a lot about grammar. I know what's right, I know what's wrong, I know when to use which, and I know when to use that. I know where the apostrophe goes. But I get so worked up about people who talk about it all the time. You know, when
Mm.
you're sitting in a pub, you're looking at the list of food, and they're saying, "Well, that shouldn't be an apostrophe, and that shouldn't be an apostrophe." And you're like, "Oh, my God, it doesn't matter. It's obvious what they're selling."
Yeah,
You
let it
know,
go.
these, yeah, just let it go. I don't like, I love proper grammar myself, but I'm not that interested in policing it with others. Um, there's a debate you've probably seen on LinkedIn about the use of the N dash and AI and all this sort of stuff. Absolute load of old bollocks, as far as I can see. The people who are pontificating about it wouldn't know when to use an N dash. They probably don't know the M dash exists. They don't know the difference between an N dash and a hyphen. Um, the rest of it, I've been working mainly for American publishers for over 30 years, so I'm kind of a bit transatlantic like that.
Yeah.
My wife kills me when I refer to the sidewalk, or I say we've got to get some gas now and stuff like this.
Instead of petrol.
Petrol,
Yeah.
petrol, yeah,
Second, final
yeah,
question, human interest
okay,
question. Your website has a photo of you holding something that looks like it might be an Oscar. And I know this. If, first of all, am I right?
yes, you are.
I've held an Oscar myself. You want to trade Oscar stories?
Yes, yes. Who wants to go first? Do you want to go
I'll
first?
go first, sure. I was speaking at an event. I do a lot of keynote speaking. And there was a guy there everyone was calling the Rain Man. His real name was Kim Peek, Peek. He's dead
Yeah.
now. But it was the real Rain Man, the guy that
Oh
inspired
my
the
God.
movie. And he had
Oh
been
wow.
given an Oscar by the guy who wrote the movie because, of course, without him, there would have been no script. And I guess that was his gift. And so what happened was his father, he was a idiot savant. And he could not get out on the road by himself, but his father was enterprising. So father took him out on these road shows, and he was another one of the keynote speakers. And he would actually demonstrate his savantness
Wow.
to us on stage and later at a cocktail party, which is when I got to hold the Oscar. So it's not my Oscar at all. I have attended the Academy Awards one time, but I
Oh
think
wow. Under what guise?
that's even less interesting.
Oh right,
My
okay.
brother had done some work for the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences, and he got a +3. And he invited me and some mates, and we went on the ultimate bachelor trip.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. How did you get to hold Oscar?
I got a hold an Oscar very simply because a chap called Lee from my gym won an Oscar. Won an Oscar. I think it was earlier this year or late last year. I don't know when they're quite early in the year, aren't they? It must have been this year.
Yeah.
Um, he was the set dresser, something that I didn't even know existed,
Hmm.
on the I can't even remember the movie.
A movie.
Um, it was on a movie. I wanted to say it wasn't Avatar, but it was kind of like a fantasy thing, and it did very well in the Oscars. Anyway, um, I saw him at the gym and said, "So where have you been? You've been away?" And he said, "Yes, I have. I've been in Hollywood." I said, "Why the hell were you in Hollywood?" And he said, "Well, I won an Oscar." And I thought, oh wow! And then we had somebody was leaving, so they had drinks one afternoon, and I went in for the drink, and he had it there in his carrying case. He said, "Do you want to hold it?" I said, "You bet I did."
It's
It's the only
something.
chance I'm. It's the only chance I'm going to get it to hold an Oscar.
Well, I don't know about that, man. You keep up your track record. You're going to write a book for somebody who gets a
Oh, that
CEO,
now that would be fantastic.
somebody important, gets a movie made from the book, and then looky here, Tim Cook, Cooke, holding his own Oscar in the next
Yes,
photograph.
and saying there's no E on Cook on this, and also
Yeah.
that apostrophe is completely unnecessary. And what the hell is this? You need a proofreader, you need a ghostwriter, and you need a copy editor on this statue right now.
Well, I'm telling you right now, if somebody I know needs a ghostwriter, I'm sending him to you, brother. You know what you're doing.
Oh, that's so nice.
I'm proud to
Thank you.
know you. Thank you for the time today. And I wish you the best of luck with all your ghostwriting endeavors. It's cookthebook.com, everybody. This is Tim Cook, Cooke, cookthebook.com for all your ghostwriting needs. Tim, it's been a pleasure.
Oh, Michael, it's been great, and thanks very much for inviting me.
We'll see you next time.
Cheers. Bye bye.